Losing your mother at a young age and outliving her is a subject we're talking about today. Please note that today addresses subjects of death and sensitive topics. So if you're not comfortable with those, please feel free to end the podcast and we will see you next time. Grieving the loss of a parent at any age is a phase hard to go through, but losing a parent at a young age can make you lose your bearings and make you question yourself for many years to come. If you've lost someone close to you or you know someone who has, this episode could be of help. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Welcome aboard the podcast, A Woman's Spark with Janik, a place to show women how powerful they are and remind them of the spark that they carry, the strength that gets us up every time we fall, a place to feel seen and understood when we don't fully have what it takes to get back up on a hard day. This podcast is to help you heal and become the best version of yourself during the roller coaster of life. We're building a community of women that wants to help one another and inspire each other to become stronger and more united, as we were born to be. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing losing a parent, more specifically a mother, at a young age. We're going to touch on the effects that it can have throughout your life, even after decades. We'll also touch outliving our parent and what effects that have. This topic is completely unfamiliar to me, except for losing a grandparent at a young age. That was a safe place to me. I'm going to talk about the journey of our guest from the time of her mother's death to today. How did she live being raised and go through the different milestones of her life without her mom? Learning about herself without her mother's guidance. And finally, we're going to find out how she is today and where she is now. On a more general note, losing a parent is a deeply impactful experience, and the grieving process can be long and complex. It's important to allow yourself time to grieve, seek support, and remember the positive effects of your relationships with your parents afterwards, after their passing. Recognizing the scope of your loss, allowing yourself to grieve, and giving yourself time are crucial steps in coping with the events. On today's episode, we're going to have a sparkling woman named Isabelle Fortin. She's had a beautiful life path, and she'll be able to cover it all herself. She started her career in the armed forces, and she is now self-employed and loves to help other people discover who they are as individuals and also helps in businesses. If you're curious to find out more about Isabelle's journey, don't go too far because we're going to hear about her and you want to hear about this. So we'll be right back after the short break. Welcome back to A Woman's Spark with Janik. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a beautiful soul coming on with us today, Isabelle Fortin. She will tell us about her journey. I can't say too much because it's a path that really belongs to her, and I can't say that I've had any experience along those lines. So please welcome Isabelle.
Hi.
Hi, Isabelle.
How are you?
Good, yourself?
Good. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was a meeting of the souls when we met.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I think a lot of connections on so many levels.
Yes. Amen and hot damn and hallelujah.
And that's it. Today, the main topic of our conversation is losing a parent, but losing your mother at a young age and outliving her. You know what? I would just like to leave you the place and the space to tell us about your journey.
Well, it's, I guess, not a coincidence that I'm the guest for this podcast. So, my mother passed. She was 36 years old, and that was in 1977, and I was 5. And my brother was 9, and my sister was 11. So the youngest of 3 siblings. And the weird thing about that is, none of us, although we lost the same person that had the same role in our lives, none of us processed this information the same way. And of course, I went from being a extremely happy-go-lucky kind of kid. I was an eternal optimist. You'd say at 5 years old, I didn't have much to stress about in life, but I was a particularly happy kid. And on that fatal day in September 77th, I kind of lost my joy for a while. And I lost it for a long, long time, actually. I lost it for 32 years. And
Wow.
it wasn't until I outlived her that I figured out what I had done to myself as a 5 year old. So unconsciously and on so many deep, deep, deep level, I had decided, the 5 year old version of Isabel had decided that it was my duty to live my mother's life. Because even as a kid, I understood she was too young to die. And so I did, and I wanted all the things that she had. And I really felt like a loser when I didn't achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be married young because she was 23 when she married, and I wanted three kids because we were three siblings, and I wanted to join the military, which I did, and I joined the Air Force because she had been Air Force, and I she had been a supply tech. I didn't do that, but I was the closest trade possible to her, and I dated military men because she had married a military man. So all of that happened without me ever knowing it. And to be honest, Janik, I didn't realize what everything that I'm just saying to you now. I didn't realize all of this till about 10 years after I had outlived her. So what
Okay.
happened is the extremely sad child became an angry teenager because anger is powerful and anger is much easier to control than sadness because there's control in
For
anger.
for
And
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
So out of self-preservation, I went from being sad to being angry. And then I
Mm-hmm.
became a bitter adult because I didn't have what I thought I wanted, which was find a husband, hopefully a military one. And I don't know why I idealized, sorry, military men, because I dated a few and they're not all that. Although they look really good in uniforms. Um, so, and when that didn't work, I just was more bitter. And then the age she had my sister came and went. And then the age she had my brother came and went. And then the age that she had me came and went. And all of that every single time without realizing it, without knowing, I felt like a loser. I felt like I was wasting my life. Like I
You
was
weren't filling her shoes.
Yeah, I was good at nothing. That's not
Mm-hmm.
true. I was good at a whole bunch of stuff. I wasn't good at being her. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I'm not supposed to be good at being her.
No,
But
you
I
should be
didn't,
good at being you.
yeah, exactly. But
Mm.
I didn't realize that. And once I outlived her, I had you know what, Janik, there's a lot of people that calls them aha moment. I call them holy fuck moment. So I had an holy fuck moment where I woke up. I was 37 in a couple of months, and I had a career and I was making money and I had a nice place to live and I had friends and, and boyfriends and whatever. And I was still never, ever, ever happy, ever. Nothing was fulfilling me. But now the thing was, I didn't have the guidelines of my life anymore because I had outlived her. So I didn't know what to do with myself no more. Like up until 36, I knew exactly what she had done. So I
Mm-hmm.
had just to try to follow that path. So
Mm-hmm.
I woke up one morning, 37 in a couple of months, and I remember I had cried myself to sleep the night before, which was very, very, um, I did that very often in my life. I had woken up in a bad mood, which I did that pretty much every day. And I remember walking buck naked to my bathroom in my tiny apartment, looking at myself in the eyes. And you know what? When I told you the story, I want to say this because it's very important. When we look at ourselves, we don't look for ourselves, we look at ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have spinach in my teeth? How's my
Uh-huh.
hair? Do I look fat in these jeans? That's what
What
we
about
want
the
to do.
baggy skin? And what about
Exactly. We're looking for reassurance. That's what we're
that's
looking
right.
for. Do I look fat in these jeans? Are they okay? Is my the purple in my hair all right? Is it due to be colored again?
Yeah.
I joke that the purple is natural and the gray is dyed, but um
What happened then when you looked at yourself in the mirror?
I looked in the eyes. I
Yeah.
looked at myself in the eyes and I screamed, physically screamed, I cannot live like this anymore.
Hmm.
And I said out loud, either I kill myself today or I choose a better way to live. And the
Hmm.
key word in that is choose.
Aha.
Because although the 5-year-old version of me had taken an extremely unconscious and unprepared decision to live or to fill my mom's shoes, it was still a decision.
Yeah.
And so if I made that decision when I was 5, I can make another one.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did.
That's what you did. You know
Yeah.
what we just did? We've unpacked 37, 32 years in exactly 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I'd like to fill in some holes
it's easier
along
with
the way.
hindsight, honey.
But you know what? That's the beauty of our conversation today, because speaking to someone who's in the midst of being in that stupor or anger or the teenage years, the debacle, they're not realizing it. The
No, not
beauty of
yet.
you talking to us today is you've done the work, you've gone through the process,
I
and
drank the
all
Kool-Aid.
you drank the Kool-Aid, and you can look back and help women who are going through this. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of it. Now, if we're going to fill in a few little holes, if you don't mind me asking,
No problem.
your mom passed away of what? Is it something that was sudden, or um, did you have time to say goodbye?
She died of lung cancer, so it was an illness, but that went very, very rapidly. She got the diagnosis, and she was dead 9 months later.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And how did your siblings live the same situation as you?
Well, I can't answer for them.
No,
Um,
but to
my
your eyes, to
Yeah, I know that my sister. Okay, so that's kind of not my job, but my mother. This was the 1970s, so my mother had asked my sister to fill in her shoes,
ah,
and at age 11, that wasn't her job.
no.
So the reason I say that's not my job is it's not my job to forgive her for that request. That's my sister's job, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
leave that to her. And I don't know where she is in that journey, and it's none of my business.
Absolutely.
Um, but so my sister had to become kind of the lady of the house at age
Uh-huh.
11, and my brother, looking at me being sad for years and years and years and years, kind of took it upon himself that it was his job to take care of me.
Okay.
Yeah,
And are you close today?
both of them, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And your mom passes away, you're 5 years old. Obviously, you're not at an age to take care of yourself.
No.
What happens then? Do you,
Yeah, my dad remarried less than a year after my mom passed,
okay.
and was married to his high school sweetheart. His second wife was his high school sweetheart, and that um, didn't last very long. It lasted about 6 years, and he remarried about 3 years after that to a lady that he is still married to today
Okay.
for almost 40 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
um, so 5 years old, your teenage years, I'm jumping 5 to 12, 13.
Yeah.
You said your teenage years were a bit rougher. Uh,
I was just
what were the thoughts going through your mind at that point? Like, I'm not good enough. What were all the thoughts, the mental turmoil happening at that moment
I
for you?
truly believe that life was just something that you suffered through until you died.
Mhm.
That there was no real purpose to this shit, um and that was it. You just and it really is strange looking back because I joined the military out of high school, and honestly, Janik, it as at the time I hated school, and at the time it never crossed my mind that I could leave school. It
Okay.
was like that's not an option. It doesn't exist. It's not on the menu. So I suffered through school and at the same time, it was the only place where I was with friends and I wasn't with at home feeling sorry for myself. So, and I performed well in school actually. And I truly don't understand why, because from secondary 1 to 5, I never opened a book ever.
Okay.
I would listen in class. I would do what I was told in class, and I would go home and not open one book. I never studied. I didn't, I wouldn't. And I
Okay.
still passed with flying colors. So I must have been somewhat intelligent. And, but it really just never dawned on me that, that it was an option. And right after high school, I joined the military. And for me, the military was a salvation because that's where I was going to meet my husband, you see. And
Ah, yes, it was part
that's
of the plan.
where
It was in the book, chapter
exactly.
3.
And that was the the promised land.
Yeah.
I was gonna find a nice man because truth be told, my dad is an extremely nice person. He's a very kind man. So I was lucky in that sense because I could have had an asshole as a dad on top of my mom passing because that happens and that unfortunately happens a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, in the military was my salvation. First of all, it's an instant family. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of duty. It's a sense of service. And it was where my life as an adult was going to begin, and it was going to be better than what I
Hmm.
had been living for the past, let's say, 12 years. So it
Hmm.
was going to be fun. And
Yeah.
it was for about 5 years until, the promised land wasn't so promising.
Yeah. Until you've moved on to something else that wasn't as promising or wasn't as fulfilling.
Exactly.
One thing comes to mind: 0 to 18. They're the formative years. They are what form you, and you learn about yourself by looking around you, by asking questions to your parents, having your siblings. The one thing that comes to mind is, with my path, my biological father wasn't around. He's not even on my birth certificate. I know who he is, but by the age of 16, 17, 18, I kind of wanted to know who that
Mm-hmm.
person was
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have answers for that part of the family of who I was. I had my mom's side. She gave me as much as she could. She did her best. So now, if I put this back into your hands, where you have your dad, he's there, he's doing the best he can. You have your siblings, but between 5 and 18 and beyond, those formative years, did you feel like you were missing? Did you feel like you had those holes and you couldn't fill those holes? Were you able to fill them somehow?
I was very lucky. Because my on my mother's side, she had three sisters that would fill in the void and give me informations, and I have an aunt on my dad's side that spent a lot of time with my mother and knew her very well. They were close. They were friends, first and foremost. Um, I wasn't getting a lot of information with my dad, and it wasn't from the lack of me nagging. But he was just he was in his sadness, so he couldn't
Yeah.
answer. But I was able to fill out a few voids. And at one point, I'm talking decades later, at one point it kind of became irrelevant
Okay.
because once I had the holy fuck moment in my life, it was no longer about her. It's I wanted to know about me. So who am
Hmm.
I when I'm not trying to be somebody else?
Yeah. Is
So I
it?
do know where I come from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of support. Had you not have had that support, do you, it's hard to answer that question knowing that you did have support, but if for someone that's listening, and that doesn't have those people around them to fill in the void, what would you recommend?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think that we have these answers inside of us. It's literally in your DNA.
Hmm.
So digging deep inside of you and realizing that at the end of the day, it truly doesn't matter where you come from.
No, it's who you are, isn't it?
Exactly.
I
And
love
we
that.
spend a lifetime thinking that, of course, our genetics is like that, our DNA is like that, and I get the need to want, okay, so am I at risk for cardiac uh, problems, or like, am I going to get cancer,
Yeah.
or, so I understand, but now there are so many medical tests that are available.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, it's, I don't know. For me, I understand why I needed to know.
Hmm.
In hindsight, I shouldn't have asked that many questions.
You
And it's
feel
not, I'm
like
not,
you.
I don't regret it. It's not a regret.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not, telling myself that was a bad idea and I was being a bad Isabel. It's just the more information I got from other people. Well, first of all, it was their perception and not reality.
Hmm.
And second of all, it was just giving me more tools not to be myself.
Yeah, but also as humans, we like to feel like we belong
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's
And
true.
not belonging, we belong on one end of the tree, but you're not fully belonging on the other end of the tree. So needing the need to belong is very, very important for humans. Feeling seen and understood, which I keep saying, but belonging to a community, belonging to a parent, belonging to friends is
I agree
important.
with you. I agree with you completely, wholeheartedly, actually. But it came from me, and that's not, I'm not saying that that I am the holder of the almighty truth.
Yeah.
I'm saying what worked for me is eventually belonging to me, because truth of
Yes.
the matter is I never belonged to my family and I still don't.
No.
That doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean they don't love me.
Yeah.
I am the self proclaimed black sheep of my family and I feel extremely loved. But I'm different in every single possible way from my siblings and from my father. So I belong to me.
Yeah, do you remember before we started recording, we were talking about children and how they'll become whoever they need to become because
They already are.
they are who they are and they belong to themselves.
Yes.
So,
So, but you are right. It is a human need. The sense of belonging is a human need, and actually it plays tricks on our brains. And there's a lot of data on that. It's just you got to be careful, especially when you have a story like mine, to get information from third parties, because even her sisters were missing parts of who she was. And my
yeah.
dad was missing part of who she
Oh,
was, and
like
my
that.
sibling were missing part. So I, being the curious brat that I was trying to make the big picture.
The
If
big
I
book with
get
everybody's
information,
perception.
exactly, if I get information from everybody, I'm going to figure out who that person was.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I was ever able to. And you know what? I don't think I was supposed to.
Mhm.
So I think it's a slippery slope, but
It
I
really is.
understand what the sense of your question. Yes, of course, the sense of belonging is important. Just careful who you give it to.
That's it. Before we take a break, I have two more questions
Sure.
which really come into mind. The number one is, and I'll rephrase them afterwards if they're not really clear, is the first one is it's easy to fall into the victim, uh, needing to be the victim or getting the attention or needing to be uplifted by everyone. How do you feel about that in your situation?
Oh my God, I was a victim until I was almost 40. It wasn't my fault. It was hard. Life is hard. Yeah, but my mom passed, and I was the perfect excuse not to do anything.
Mm.
It was the perfect excuse.
and
Yeah,
remind
but
us how you got
it's
out of
not the
it?
same for me because my mom passed.
Yes.
So,
Remind us again how you got out of being a victim for the listeners.
uh-huh. A lot of therapy, a lot of help. It's true. I must have
Yeah.
paid a small house in therapy,
Yeah.
and
That was my second question. So we'll get back, we'll continue, but
I'm
therapy is my.
proud of that because who
Mhm.
better to invest than in myself?
Mhm.
So, a lot of therapy, a lot of different kinds of therapy. I don't believe in going to see a psychologist for 17 years every week. I don't. I understand that some people take great comfort in that. That's great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it wasn't the right thing for me. So I tried NPL, I tried hypnosis. I went to see a real psychologist with a PhD in psychology, and I did a whole bunch of different things, and they all helped
Mhm.
in various degrees and in various ways because humans are extremely complex beings. But here's the kicker, is we're complex, and because we are complex we like to complicate things.
Haha.
Now,
Oh my God.
complicated and
Golden. This
complex
is
are
golden.
two words. So
Yeah.
I am complex but I'm not complicated.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
Please do.
These podcasts are such therapy for me. If my husband's listening to this, this is therapy. But you know what? He's probably gone, finally.
I gotta meet your husband now.
Ah, that was my second question. How do you feel about therapy? And you've
Oh,
really, really answered it thoroughly. It's so important, and I so much agree with it.
it should be mandatory. It really should.
Should it stop at one point? When should we stop therapy?
Actually, you know what? I think that if you're with the right therapist, they're going to tell you when they're done. And the first psychologist I ever saw, I was in my 30s. I went to see her every 2 weeks for a couple of years, actually 4 years. And I was part of the last new clients she had taken because, psychologists prepare their retirement like almost a decade ahead of time because they're going to follow people for a long time. So
Mhm.
when they're, 5, 7, 10 years out, they stop taking new clients. So when I had started, she was telling me I have about 5, 6 years to go, and then I'm going to retire. Just
Mhm.
know that if you are not done, I will guide you towards somebody else. Um,
But that's still long, though. 6 years. But I
yeah,
mean, yes, we need. I've been going to therapy on and off for, well, my whole life, really. So,
yes,
so I understand where you're coming from. But sometimes I feel like 6 years with the same person, although it's hard to start all over again, having a different perspective may bring something new to the table. What do you
again,
think?
wholeheartedly agree with
Yeah.
you. And actually, to my point is exactly that. Is after 4 years of seeing her, well, let's say 18 months every 2 weeks, and then every month, and then I
Mhm.
would go whenever something was, amiss in my life. And the last time that I saw her, she's the one that said, the work that you had to accomplish with me, the things that I could help with, I have provided to you.
Mhm.
And now it's time to part ways. And she wasn't getting rid of me. She was just saying, you're not going to go further if you keep on working with me.
That's it.
And
Because
she
she's gone as
even,
far as she could with her tools and your tools.
exactly. And she
Exactly.
had even told me, whenever you feel the need to start again, find another method. Not that that
Mm.
method isn't good. It's just I had done what was needed in that particular method. And the
Mm.
second time was NPL, and the third time was hypnosis, and the fourth time was, so I've had, 6 or 7 therapists in my life, and they all had something. Some of them I saw them for 6 months and never saw them again. But
Mm.
what they brought to me just brought me to the next level and the next level and the next level, just so I could get closer to who I am.
Mm. Thank you, Isabel.
You know what?
That really. demystifies therapy. No, but it's true because some people back in the days, we're going to go on a break in a second, but back in the days, my grandfather was a surgeon, and my grandmother well, my grandparents both lost a child. She should have gone to therapy, and it wasn't okay back then.
No.
It wasn't seen as something normal. And, she turned to the bottle.
Listen, I was 5. My brother was 9. My sister was 11. My dad was 39. He didn't know how to boil an egg.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the 4 people I just mentioned ever saw a therapist once the lady at the house passed. Nobody.
Wow.
That's insane.
It is.
That's insane.
There's definitely some a whole different topic to discuss because I find it's a necessity.
It is.
But yeah, it's a fine line between the two, and everybody thinks differently. So,
but you know what it is? Yeah, I just want to add one thing. You know what it is, Janik, is we all think that it's easy to be who we are, and it's not.
No.
And we all think that we know exactly who we are, and we don't. Mm-hmm. Knowing ourselves is literally being able to read the bottle the label from inside the bottle. I'm going to say this again because I baffled. Being who you are is reading the label from inside the bottle. You don't have the manual. You don't have the instructions to who you are.
No.
You need that outside view. You need that outside help.
Yes, because sometimes they'll bring up something that you've never thought of. And
yes.
Oh, here's a different angle. And yeah,
your job is to hold the mirror.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a break shortly. We'll be right back. Thank you, Isabelle.
You're welcome.
Don't go too far.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Women's Spark podcast with Janik. We're here with Isabelle Fortin. She started her career in the armed forces, as I mentioned earlier. She's now self-employed, loves to help people, help them discover who they are. And it can be personal, individual, and also in businesses. Welcome back, Isabelle.
Thank you.
Your history, your journey has made everyone who's listening, but myself, learn about all the emotions that you've lived and what's possible when you lose a parent. I'm sure you can talk. Can you talk to us about maybe the silver lining that comes from a story like that? Something a bit more. I want to get onto the positive because, like you said, at 37, you woke up, you looked at yourself in the mirror, and something positive came of that because you're here today. Mm-hmm. Right? You were talking about.
I did not kill myself that day.
You're here.
Yeah, so I did. That's the good news.
You seem happy. You seem smiling, and you seem like you're fulfilling your life with positive energy and attitude. So tell us the silver lining.
Well, the silver lining for me, that what happened in that my holy fuck moment was I was just I had enough of being in pain. It was enough. I had punished myself enough. I had suffered enough. I had cried too much. I had tried everything. And it was enough. It was just enough. And that day, there was something that shifted in me. It's just, I was not put on this planet to suffer. I just wasn't. I didn't believe that anymore. And I don't believe in the punitive God. I didn't come here just to, put up with some crap and die. I just didn't believe in that anymore. So I needed to find something else. So, and I had always had that. I had a sense of urgency, and I still do, because life can end tomorrow. And I actually, I don't know if I told you this off air, but I actually had ovarian cancer, and I'm the luckiest bitch on earth, because I found out I had cancer. The cancer was already removed from my body. I had something that's really rare. It's called an ovarian torsion. So your ovary literally flips on its side and goes kaput because the blood doesn't flow to it anymore. I think the cases is 9 women out of 100,000, and I was one of these 9s. And
you can tell I didn't know this information.
No, I can't, because I'm not wearing my glasses. And that was 8 years ago in a month. And I was rushed to the hospital, and nobody knew what the hell was happening. And 24 hours later, they're removing my ovary. And 3 months after that, 4 months after that, the hospital called me and said, "Oh, by the way, you remember the thing we removed from your body?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. I still have the scar. Yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, there was a 9 centimeter cancerous tumor in your ovary. And by the way, if you don't know this in the audience, an ovary is 1.5 centimeters. Mine was
Wow.
14, and my mass, my
That's a
cancer,
grapefruit.
yeah, my cancerous mass was 9. So luckiest bitch on earth. But back to the
Silver
original,
lining.
yeah, back to the original question. It was just I had always have the sense of urgency, the sense of my life is now and I can't waste time. And I still have that to this day because my life is now. I don't know
Hmm.
how long I got. That's the X factor everybody gets. And you might have 53 years, and you might have 73 years, and you might have 103, but you don't know. So I often tell my clients, don't live 75 times the same year and call it a life. That's not what life is.
Hmm. That's called
So
Groundhog Day.
yeah. So for
But
me, that was part of the aha moment is I felt like I had wasted the last 32 years of my life being sad. Because what did sadness bring me? I'm not suggesting, please, in the audience, and Janik, please understand that I'm not advocating for being happy your mom dies when you're 5. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I had wasted a lot of energy on something that wasn't doing anything positive for me.
mhm.
So I kind of went, okay, so that's not working. So I
Well,
gotta find something
in
else.
grief, it takes time. It takes
Of
a
course.
process. You need to
Of
talk
course.
about it,
Of course.
and eventually grief and the pain goes away. It doesn't mean you forget about the person you've
No.
lost, but if you get the right help, you can deal with it in a different manner and
Yep.
not let it drag on for, like you said, 32 years. But
Yeah.
it doesn't take away that the memory of the person
No,
remains.
it has
And
nothing to do. One has nothing to do with the other.
mhm,
But it was just, and again, I'm not saying this to badmouth myself. I didn't have the tools. I was 5.
mhm,
But
that's right.
now I wasn't 5 anymore. I was 37. And regardless of what happens in your story and when that story took place, how many decades ago it took place, that's your story. You're not going
That's
to
it.
change it. I could
At
hold my,
5, you're 5, but at 37, you're an adult.
I,
And you can't blame anyone else for your sadness. There
well,
comes a
what,
time where you have to be like, okay, it's in my hands. No one
well,
else is going to do it.
that's at everybody has a story that can break your heart. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
Everybody. There isn't one single person on this planet that if they go deep inside themselves and tell you about their true self and their true life that you're not going to cry. No, everybody has a story. Everybody.
Hmm.
And you're right. It comes a point where I didn't have the tools, but it was nobody's job. At 37, it was nobody's job to give it to me.
Hmm.
It was my job to seek. And I hear that a lot in my line of work. Yeah, but nobody helped me. Yeah, did you seek help?
Hmm.
Did you actually bother? Yeah, but nobody offered to help. Yeah, ask, Dan.
Hmm.
Ask for help. Raise your hand. Put a knee down.
And where would you, if someone's listening and they don't know where to start to get some help, where would you say that they should start? Maybe
Hmm.
if you could name 2 or 3, where could they start?
Well, the easy answer is psychologist, but it's the easy answer, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they are extremely expensive, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but they're extremely expensive. And nowadays, even when you can find one, they're not taking any new patients. So
Hmm.
that's one. Any kind of group. I don't like the word coaching because I think it's been overused, but any kind of group support. even like if you have an alcohol, or if your symptoms is alcoholism, or going to AA, and because there's help there, by
Yeah.
working with and being supported by people who have dealt and are still dealing with the same thing that you're doing.
Hmm.
And if you are spiritual or religious, any kind of guidance in the spirituality that you practice or the religion that you practice, there's always help there. It's, back to your sense of belonging. It is important to feel supported, and we feel most supported when in places we feel we belong. And
Yeah.
in both sentences, I said the word feel,
Mm.
because that's the key word in this, is feel. But you know what? I have a tendency of saying, don't scratch the wound too long, because it's like stirring shit. It just stinks more.
The wound's just going to get bigger and bigger and hurt even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at one point, you kind of need to say, it's all in acceptance. Janik, even if I sat here and I held my breath until I was blue in the face, my mom ain't coming back. She died.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It wasn't my choice. It wasn't her choice. But no matter, no amount of sadness or anger is ever going to change that fact.
Yeah.
So at one point, you have to look at the story, even if you don't like it, even if there's someone to blame. In my case, there was nobody to blame. She died of cancer. But even if there was someone to blame, at one point, you have to say, this is my story. And you
Hmm.
have to own that story. It's
Yeah.
mine. I don't like it. I would change it. But you know what? You change your story, you change who you are.
Mm.
And
You know where I'm going on with this?
I like me. I would
Yeah.
buy me a beer in a bar. I don't drink
Ah.
alcohol, but I mean, I wouldn't change that story. And
Yeah.
whenever I feel sadness in regards to that event in my life now, I never feel sadness for me. I feel
Yeah.
sad for her. She
Yeah.
was 36 years old, for fuck's sakes. She
Hmm.
was 36 when she died. It's impossible. I mean, how can she not have been angry with that?
But she
But as
had a she
but as
had her
far as
purpose
I'm
to be on this
concerned,
planet. That's it. Well, you see where I'm going with this, eh?
no, I don't.
A woman's spark.
Yeah.
My spark is my kids.
Yeah.
What was your spark?
Me.
Yeah. What was
Me.
your spark to get back up and be like, it
Yeah.
was you. Oh, it
Me.
was you.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm enough, damn it. I don't need to live for somebody else. I'm enough. I'm enough. I don't like pain. I don't. So whenever I feel pain, I deal with it.
Hmm.
If my elbow is hurting, I'm going to go see a doctor. If my back is hurting, I'm going to go see a chiropractor. I don't tolerate pain anymore. And when my soul's in pain, I deal with it. I seek people that can help me deal with that pain,
Hmm.
because I'm enough. I was born whole. I'm
Thank you for
enough.
that. You are enough.
I am.
And every listener here is enough.
Yes,
In
absolutely.
their
And
own body, they are enough. You just have to learn to appreciate
exactly.
your enoughness.
Exactly. And you know what? I understand why parents, not all, I was going to say women because this is a women focused podcast, but why mothers and fathers go, well, the spark is my kid. But you know what? You need to be the best version of yourself to show
Yeah,
up for them.
absolutely. But the
But
days that,
you
yeah,
do it, you need to do it for you
yeah.
too, because eventually they're going to leave your house.
That's right. And
Ungrateful
then you're gonna
bastard.
look at yourself and be like, "Hey, who are you? Nice to
Who
meet you."
am I? What do I like again? Yeah.
Isabelle,
Yes.
you shine. You are beautiful. And today, what are the three values that are a big part of your daily life now that you've gone through all these years of being happy and living what you've lived? What are the three values that you live by?
Humility, empathy, and adaptability.
Ooh, I like adaptability.
It's so funny because the other day it was a joke. It was a friendly environment, but somebody said to me, "You're really full of yourself." And I said, "Well, who else am I supposed to be full of?" But
Who have I
it
got to impress here?
exactly, but
It's true.
it wasn't full of myself in the sense that I think that I'm better than you. Is I am full of who I am, and I wish every human on this planet was full of themselves,
Yeah.
because there is enough, cheap merch out there and cheap purses and cheap versions of whatever. Don't be the cheap, your cheap identity. Be
Hmm.
who you are. Be all of it. Own it. Stand in it. Stand up for it. Show up in it and take it all in. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. Take it. That's you.
What
You
did
know,
you say earlier? You said you were going to say something.
I'm
I'm a.
a bad, beautiful bitch.
That's it.
Yeah. I'm a
And you
bad,
know what, to
beautiful.
all the listeners, repeat that.
Yeah.
I'm a bad,
I'm a
beautiful
bad, beautiful bitch.
bitch.
Yeah. You damn right. And you know what? Where I got that story from? Oh, I love the story. So the actor Dax Shepard, and
Yes,
he's married to Christine Bell.
I
So
love those guys.
Christine Bell was on site, and Dax Shepard was at home with their two daughters. And one morning, you can find that story, by the way, on YouTube. So one
Is it the
morning,
sloth story?
no,
Okay.
one morning, I think it's their eldest daughter, because they have two daughters, went to see Dax and said, "You know what, Daddy, I really don't feel well today. I really don't want to go to school," and blah, blah, blah. And he said, "Well, are you physically ill?" And she said, "No, I'm not." And she's like 11 or 12 at the time. And she said, "Well, no, I'm not, Daddy." She said, "Okay, so what's going on?" "Well, dealing with, girls at that age. We're not
Mm.
the kindest people on earth." So he said, "Listen, we're going to go to the mirror together." So they go to the bathroom, and they stand in front of the mirror, both of them in front of the mirror. And Dax Shepard says to his daughter, "You're going to put your fist on your hips." So she puts her fist on her hips. And he says, "You're going to repeat after me." She says, "Okay, Daddy." She says, "I'm a bad bitch." And then the daughter says, "I'm a bad bitch." She says, "You're going to say it again. I'm a bad bitch. I'm going to fuck this day up. I'm a bad bitch. I'm going to fuck this day up." And then he takes a moment. He says, "How do you feel?" And she looked at him. She says, "I'm ready. I'm going to school.
Ha, like when you looked at yourself, you properly looked at yourself in the mirror, you hyped
I'm a,
yourself up and got up. So
I'm a
everybody
bad
repeat it
bitch."
again.
Yeah.
I'm a bad bitch and I'm
Yeah.
ready to face the day.
That's right.
Thank you, Isabel. That's amazing.
It's a
Oh,
great story. So that's when I
it is.
started. I started calling myself the bad, beautiful bitch.
Where are you now, Isabel? Where are you today? Because you know what? I said earlier that you like to help people discover who
Yeah.
they are. And we've been
Yeah.
talking about you discovering yourself. And I just love the correlation, how now that's what you do. So
Yeah.
tell us about what do you do? What do you do for a living? What do you do for people?
Okay, so I help managers and leaders, whether the company is theirs or not, to tap into the unique abilities of every single individual on their teams.
Mm,
And the reason I do that is because who you are is perfect. You're perfect.
mm,
And especially inside a company, when you feel that you are seen, heard, and valued, what you're capable of is unstoppable.
mm.
You know what, Janik? Individuality really is all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine if we were all the same. How boring this planet would be.
If
Oh,
we were all
wow.
the
No,
same,
thank
then
you.
if we were all the same, then I think I would go back to I would change my decision at 37.
That's it. I'm gone.
Now, listen and beware. I am not proning suicide. Okay, that's
No,
not
no,
what
no,
I'm
no.
saying. It
No.
was just
So, We're gonna tag your information down in the summary. So
Thank
if
you.
anyone's interested,
Yes.
you can go and see Isabelle
And you
and
can work with
contact
me on
her.
an individual level. You don't need to be in a company.
You know what? She's the pro. She's gone through searching for her own self for 37 years and now is, we're not going to say your age, but you're a little bit older than 37.
Yeah, by 15 years. Yeah.
And now constructively, this is what you're giving back to the society. You're giving
Mm-hmm.
back to the humans. You're giving
Mm-hmm.
back to help others find who they are.
Yes.
And you know what? Thank you for doing that.
No, thank you. And
That's
I just calculated it's not 15 years, it's 16 years.
uh, thank you so much for taking
Thank
the time to
you.
share
This was fun.
your experience and your wisdom about this. It is not so easy to talk about, but I mean, I feel like you're very comfortable
I
with
am.
with the topic now. It's not so, the wound has healed.
Yeah, and you know why that is because it's my story and I own
That's,
that story now. I own the
you
story
own
and
it, but you have your passage where you're okay with it now.
I
Had it
that
been raw, we wouldn't have been able to have this
that's
conversation.
what owning it is.
Ah, yes.
That's what owning it is. When you own your shit, you own it. Nobody can distort my story. Nobody can. Nobody has
Mhm.
that power. And you know what, Janik, other people have the power on us that we allow them to have.
Yeah,
So when you claim your power back, when you own your story, you claim your power back at the same time. That's your story.
that's a beautiful ending.
Thank you.
Wow. Own your shit. Own
Own your
yourself.
shit.
Be yourself.
That's
Be within
right.
yourself
That's
and be
right.
present.
Do both shit.
Thank you, Isabelle.
You're welcome.
To all you beautiful ladies out there, I hope you can take all of this knowledge, but at least a portion of it, and apply it to some of your experiences that you're living right now. So, this is it for us for today. Tune in every week on your favorite podcast platform. If you want to get involved with the Be Guided, Be Inspired community, or you also want to share what kind of impact you've had on others or what kind of life experience you went through, you can visit us at www.beguidedbeinspired.com. Contact us, we'll connect together. You can maybe even come on this podcast and share your life story and help other women around. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Isabelle, again.
You're
Keep
welcome.
sparkling, you beautiful women. See you next time. Thank you.
Bye.